Could your resistance to weight gain or weight restoration actually be blocking your faith and keeping you from feeling a genuine connection to God? As a Christian going through eating disorder recovery, trust me, I've been there. And today I want to share with you a realization that I recently had about how the recovery process and the faith life of a Christian and walking that life of faith, they're actually pretty perfect parallels. And we're going to talk about how important it is to take action to identify, to fight, and to defeat our personal Goliath in recovery, even when we don't necessarily feel like it and definitely don't think we can see the bigger picture. Let's do this. Welcome back to Becca Believes. Welcome if you're new. I'm Becca, and on this channel right now, we're kind of discussing all things related to eating disorder recovery, specifically going through eating disorder recovery while also navigating faith and chronic illness. So on that note, I just wanted to share, most of 2022, I've been going through what can only be adequately described as a crisis of faith, something I never thought would happen. If you've been around the channel at all this year, you've probably heard me reference it a few times, and I can honestly say I never thought this is something that I would go through in my life. All year, I've been doing everything that I can try to do to think of that used to be kind of my go-tos to connect to my faith, whether that's listening to worship music, whether that's spending intentional time in prayer or Bible study, or just trying to talk to God, which is what prayer is, honestly, at the very basic level. That's what prayer is talking to God. And I felt so disconnected from God that none of those things that have worked in the past were working. Nothing seemed to work. Throughout my life, and especially throughout my journeys with chronic physical and mental illness, there have been so many individual battles and so many days that I have literally been stuck in bed, unable to even speak words aloud due to pain, unable to have a single light on in this room, but I'm still able to connect in worship. And even if I can't say it out loud, I can just think the name of Jesus. I can think through Bible verses. I can think through some of my go-to worship songs, and they helped me in those moments. And in each of those moments, as those situations were going on, I had the thought to myself, okay, this is my Goliath, meaning this is the giant that I have to face, and once I face this giant and conquer it, the others, it's not necessarily going to be smooth sailing, but they will be conquerable. I will know that I can do it because I have faced and slayed this biggest giant. I literally have thought that so many times. And in each of those other circumstances, I was generally able to cling to what I knew was a firm foundation of my faith, the rock on which I stand, which is Jesus Christ. And it's just not something that I had been able to successfully do this year until a couple weeks ago. And you want to know why? None of those were my actual Goliath. All of those things that felt impossible, all of those things that felt like my giants, yes, they were giants, but they were not my Goliath, which is why I was able to cling to my faith, which is why my faith didn't feel quite so shaken. And I've only in the past few weeks realized what my real Goliath is. Earlier this year, I made a video using an analogy borrowed from Harry Potter, and by the way, you can check that video out in the cards above, where I was talking about facing your recovery boggart, meaning the things in recovery that absolutely terrify you the most and paralyze you from being able to move forward and take action. And while I still stand by that analogy 100%, I realized that the specific thing I was talking about in that video, which was the fear of my feeding tube formula and the pump that I used to run that was a specific recovery boggart I was talking about. It was all actually just one sign of the underlying recovery boggart, or Goliath, which is fear of weight gain. This is not news. It's kind of part and parcel with eating disorders. But for some reason, I wasn't able to have this perspective shift until a couple weeks ago. So while I have faced all of those other things in the past that I thought were my Goliaths at those points in time, the fear of and the resistance to weight gain and weight restoration is the one Goliath that I have never yet conquered. I say yet because, again, we're still shooting for that victory, but I'm nowhere near there just yet. On September 20th at 7:23 p.m., which I know because I literally timestamp my journal entries, I was writing in my journal in here in the bedroom because I had spent probably an hour or two trying to get myself gathered enough to go out to the living room to spend time with Roger and enjoy the evening with him, and it had all been to no avail. I could not get off the bed. I could not gather my stuff together. I was just paralyzed and frozen because everything was so loud and hectic and chaotic in my head. So like, okay, let's get out my journal. Let's write some stuff down. And then I had one thought that sparked an entire train that I'm honestly surprised I had, but it was a game changer for me. I want to read this entry to you. Just had a thought earlier. What if letting go and accepting any weight gain my body may have as a result of this process is the only way I can truly connect to my faith and to God again? What if this acceptance of weight gain is the biggest test of my faith I've thus far encountered in life? And what if to access my faith, I have to act on faith I don't feel like I currently have, but that I know I want to have again someday? What if faith is actually a lot more like recovery than I've ever realized, and I have to take action in faith before actually feeling that faith? What if gaining weight and my resistance to it is the biggest thing keeping me from connecting with God? What if accepting my team's recommendations, including weight and brain restoration, fully, is the only way I can ever feel close to God again? And then here's this one. What if gaining weight is the Goliath I have to face and slay and conquer before God's glory can be seen and felt in my life? And if you want to check out a video on just how we can reframe weight gain as something glorious, check that out in the card above too. And then I wrote, can I do this even if there's just the off chance of it being key to reconnecting with God? I mean, I think I have to figure out how to give it a try. That's what I wrote in there. This entire thought process and chain of thoughts and questions is something that I honestly don't think I would have been able to access mentally if I had not been able to have access to some medical treatments that I have in recent months. And as I've referenced before, there will be updates on those later. I'm just still in the process and don't really want to say anything until it's finished. But I have never been someone who can abide hypotheticals. What if statements are the bane of my existence. While many people view hypotheticals as a sign of possibility, they have always just been my worst nightmare because they are grounded in uncertainty. What if is by nature uncertain, and I crave certainty, as do most of us, specifically those of us struggling with eating disorders. However, I don't know if you noticed, almost everything that I wrote in this journal entry started with what if. I want to quote Spock from Star Trek Strange New Worlds, Season 1, Episode 7, where he's having a conversation with someone else, and he says, Captain Pike is comfortable operating off of hunches. I found the experience to be disturbingly similar to guessing. The person he's talking to then says, what's wrong with guessing? And then Spock replies, they are derived from incomplete premises. It is illogical. Are you serious? That's exactly how I've always felt about what-if statements. Stay tuned. Roger and I are going to be sharing some Star Trek deep dives as recovery allegories because there is just too much stuff that is perfect to not share. Those will hopefully be coming in the next 2 or 3 months. But the point is, every time I've had a therapist, my coach, any friend or family member try to engage me in a what-if conversation, I have shut down because my brain cannot handle the uncertainty of hypotheticals. However, it obviously could when I was writing this journal entry down because literally every part started with what if. So that is just further proof to me that with the medical treatments I have had the fortune of being able to access and the work that I have been doing, even when I really don't feel like doing it, there are actually some physiological neural rewiring changes being made. And while I can lose sight of that on a day-to-day basis because everything is just so overwhelming, it's kind of exciting recounting it here and realizing that that is actually something that's happening. And it was totally unintentional, but that's just kind of how it all flowed naturally. So I'm not complaining about that. Again, it's proof that there are changes being made in my brain, even if I can't see them in day-to-day life. And I have never before been able to access that part of my brain, that what-if part of my brain. I've never been able to really access it. Even when I've tried to pretend to be able to do these exercises, it has never been something that has come naturally. It has never been something that has just flowed. And that's exactly what happened here. It just flowed. It was just natural. And after writing down all those what-ifs, here's how I finished the journal entry. I am so exhausted from living a life governed by disorder. I just want to be free. I want to have peace. I want to genuinely smile and laugh with my heart and soul, and I want so much more than this. This being this current iteration of an existence that doesn't really feel like a life, and I still can't necessarily see the bigger picture of the life I'm fighting for, but I have to believe it's out there because I want so much more than this. I still don't know if I'll ever reach that point of peace and contentment and genuine soul joy, but I do know and I can guarantee that I will never have a chance at living any life of healing if I don't face and finally tackle and conquer this Goliath that has ruled my life for nearly 2 decades, and that is weight gain and weight restoration, especially when it's weight that never should have been lost in the first place. And here's the thing. What if? What if that life is actually possible? What if it's actually possible? And what if that life is only possible by taking action? By taking what feel like blind leaps of faith in your faith walk and in recovery. Trusting that there is a bigger picture unfolding, but it's one that you're not necessarily able to see, stuck in the miry clay of going through the recovery process and this world in general. And what if finally facing this Goliath that I've not been able to conquer for 2 decades and doing everything I can to not only begrudgingly go through nutritional rehabilitation, but embrace the weight restoration process because I know it means brain restoration, it means personality restoration, it means life restoration. What if going through this and accepting that finally is the key to finally being able to actually live the life that I was created to live? A life that I've lost sight of over the past year. A life that I'm sick of losing sight of and don't want to keep losing sight of anymore. As with many things I share, this is as much for myself as anyone else, but what if we don't have to be quite so scared of the what ifs? And what if it actually all works out? If you're going through the process of weight restoration and you're having a difficult time with it, I encourage you to try your best to embrace the what if, specifically, what if it all works out? And you can check out a video that I'm gonna have coming up all about tips on reframing weight gain and that whole process and ways that you might be able to shift the perspective and kind of look at it from a different point of view to, if not make the process easier, at least make it more bearable. Because again, what if it actually all works out? See you in the next one.